or more spiritual. So the end result could be a new type of humans, a downgraded humans, who are highly intelligent and disciplined, but have no compassion and no spiritual depth. And this is one, for me, this is, you know, the dystopia, the apocalypse. That when people talk about the new technologies and they have this scenario of, you know, the Terminator, robots running in the street shooting people, this is not what worries me. I think we can avoid that. What really worries me is using the corporations, armies, politicians will use the new technologies to change us in a way which will destroy our humanity, or the best parts of our humanity.
And
it's amazing how he makes these arguments, yet his worldview leads just exactly towards that. He's like, I'm afraid that these things are going to happen, but my worldview and belief suggests that we move in these directions such that it's the logical conclusion. It's so inconsistent, especially when you when you read his writings. It's weird. He tries to come off like he cares, but when you actually read his works, it's like, oh, I get it. It's this strange, like, let me pat your back while I stab you in the chest scenario.
One of those ways could be removing the compassion. Another way that really worries me, for me, is probably more likely, is a Brave New World kind of thing that sort of removes the flaws of humans, maybe removes the diversity in humans, and makes us all kind of these dopamine-chasing creatures that just...
We're already there, bro. AI is just going to make that 10 times worse, but keep building, keep engineering it.
Kind of maximize enjoyment in the short term, which kind of seems like a good thing, maybe in the...
Oh yeah, we know, Duke. It's interesting how this whole thing we're seeing here is a tribal arrangement discussing a tribe by tribesmen. Fascinating. No conflict of interest there, but let's continue.
Short term, but it creates a society that doesn't think, that doesn't create, that just is sitting there enjoying itself at a more and more rapid pace, which seems like another kind of society that could be easily controlled by a centralized center of power. But the set of dystopias that we could arrive at through this, through allowing corporations to modify humans, is vast, and we should be worried about that. So it seems like humans are pretty good as we are. All the flaws, all of it together.
We are better than anything that we can intentionally design at present.
Yeah.
Like any intentionally designed humans at the present moment is going to be much, much worse than us, because basically we don't understand ourselves. I mean, as long as we don't understand our brain, our body, our mind, it's a very, very bad idea to start manipulating a system that you don't understand deeply.
Precisely what we're doing. Precisely what 2020 through 2022 was. Precisely what it was. And he was actually supporting that. Again, these people lie through their teeth and misrepresent the truth constantly. They don't know how to tell the truth. That's the problem.
And we don't understand ourselves.
So I have to ask you about an interesting dynamic of stories. You wrote an article 2 years ago titled, "When the World Seems Like One Big Conspiracy, How Understanding the Structure of Global Cabal Theories Can Shed Light on Their Allure and Their Inherent Falsehood." What are global cabal theories, and why do so many people believe them?
Let us hear.
37% of Americans, for example.
Well, the global cabal theory, it has many variations, but basically there is a small group of people, a small cabal, that secretly controls everything that is happening in the world. All the wars, all the revolutions, all the epidemics, everything that is happening is controlled by this very small group of people who are, of course, evil and have bad intentions. And this is
straw man, but we'll continue.
a very well-known story that it's not new. It's been there for thousands of years. It's very attractive because, first of all, it's simple. You don't have to understand everything that happens in the world. You just need to understand one thing. The war in Ukraine, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, 5G technology, COVID-19. It's simple. There is this global cabal. They do all of it. And also, it enables you to shift all the responsibility to all the bad things that are happening in the world to this small cabal. It's the Jews. It's the Freemasons. It's not us. And also, it creates...
Can you believe it? Oh, this man, this little man.
It creates this fantasy, utopian fantasy. If we only get rid of the small cabal, we solved all the problems of the world.
Whoever said that? Whoever said that? Now, maybe someone did. Okay, now, we're going to continue, but I want to go step by step because I have refutations for this whole little segment here. Now, first off, it was a straw man. He says small group. It consists of this small group of individuals. It's much more than some small group. Now, he might be referring to this like boilerplate, traditional Illuminati argument. Now, of course, there's historical evidence for these things. But those who study long enough understand that it's much deeper than some one small group. In fact, when you understand how systems work, it's clear that it's far beyond one little small tiny group of men. Now, I'd say the further you go back in bloodline, maybe that group starts to be more and more apparent, right? But that's just another conversation. But I think what we really need to realize here, at least for me personally, what I realize here is a blatant straw man and this dismissive nature that he has. And he's like, listen, they think it's like this way of making the argument look so ridiculous. Who would be stupid enough to believe it? And using straw men and misrepresentations of what is being said as a way to get people to call it crazy or something. So first, it's a small group, and and the goal is to get rid of the cabal, and everything is fixed. That might be the case for some of the New Age movements that really push this idea of once we just get these archons out of the way or something, we'll go to source and, we'll find out who we really are. I know there's so many different truth communities and there's so many different conspiratorial ideas of the grand scheme of things, but I'm only going to come from the perspective that I adhere to and understand, and it's far deeper and far beyond anything this dude is talking about, that's for sure. I've written here in my notes, small group, quote unquote, straw man. It's a dismissive take. And also I'd say they only address conspiracy theories. What about all the conspiracy facts? There's plenty. There's hundreds. And they're very easy to find. So it's interesting to me how they only address the conspiracy theories and the straw man ones, lizard people and, cabal and some castle, all of this silly stuff that only like very green and baby truthers say, right? And the solution, get rid of the cabal, is a new age position I wrote here. And it's this like solve the problems of the world and it'll all go away. It's kind of silly. Really, I think what's really trying to be done is expose the ills and the clandestine affairs that occur within the world. It's not that we're trying to point at this one little tiny group and say they control everything, when we understand it's deeper than man. It's spiritual, right? So, and of course this man's an atheist and he hates Christianity, so we get that part. But as far as we're concerned, we're not trying to point at some single group of man. We're trying to expose the ills and clandestine affairs that occur within the world, right? So really he's fallaciously dismissive, describes deep intellectual dishonesty, I'd say. So he's being intellectually dishonest here by saying these things. He's not really trying to address what people are saying. He's probably just taking some very cringy, truther kind of perspective, and he's attacking it as a straw man. That's obvious. But the reason I'm addressing this video and this interview is because this is being watched by, when I last looked, it was in the 900,000s, possibly in the millions now. So millions of people are watching this, and him being somewhat of an expert, somewhat of an authority, somewhat of a highly regarded individual, his perspective on conspiracy theories is going to be borrowed by people who watch it. That's just how the majority thinks today. So we have to kind of break these things down and expose the silliness of these type of very mainstream new media representations of quote unquote truth. These are all derailment projects in my view. Lex Friedman being promoted like crazy. All he does is promote transhumanism and technocracy. So it makes sense to me. But I believe he's addressing like the Jonesian and Ike conspiratorial communities that go a little far and extreme with some of the stuff. Let's continue.
Salvation. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the war in Ukraine, the epidemics, poverty, everything is solved just by knocking out this small cabal. So, and it's simple, it's attractive, and this is why so many people believe it. It's not new.
Also, he puts conspiracy theorists in a box, right? As if they're a monolith. And again, for me, that speaks to intellectual dishonesty. This guy's not an idiot. Okay, so there's emotion behind his arguments, not knowledge and logic. This is not reason. This is purely emotional because he's upset that people are exposing him, and of course he's getting a lot of attacks. And I think this is just more evidence of his intellectual dishonesty that should shed some light on how these people and their views are actually untrustworthy.
Nazism was exactly this. Nazism began as a conspiracy theory. We don't call Nazism a conspiracy theory because, oh, it's a big thing, it's an ideology. But if you look at it, it's a conspiracy theory. The basic Nazi idea was the Jews control the world, get rid of the Jews, you solved all the world's problems. Now, the interesting thing about these kind of theories, again, they tell you that even things that look to be the opposite of each other, actually they are part of the conspiracy. So in the case of Nazism, the Nazis told people, you know, you have capitalism and communism. You think that they are opposite, right? This is what the Jews want you to think. Actually, the Jews control both communism, Trotsky, Marx were Jews, blah, 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 and capitalism, the Rothschilds, the Wall Street, it's all controlled by the Jews. So the Jews are fooling everybody. But actually, the communists and the capitalists are part of the same global cabal. And again, this is very attractive because,
as if just because maybe one theory is misrepresented and clearly not true, does that mean there can't be some connection between opposites or opposing factions? There is no possibility or potential for legitimate conspiracy? I mean, it's just such a silly and ignorant argument.
Now I understand everything. And I also know what to do. I just give power to Hitler. He gets rid of the Jews. I solved all the problems of the world. Now, as a historian, the most important thing I can say about these theories, they are never right. Because...
Oh, again, logical fallacies all over the damn place, Mr. High IQ Big Brain. They're never right. Come on, I'm sure just this little tiny chat we have here could come up with 100 proven factual conspiracies in a few minutes. But they're never right. Again, this is gaslighting 101, man. And they know, the people who watch this stuff already have a preconceived notion of what conspiracy theories are. This is a type of social engineering in its purest form. And this is to, in a sense, cull the herd and reappropriate the lies and reappropriate the mind control, the conditioning that already exists. This is setting the tone for the polarization. And this is building up that side that we always talk about, the general population that is actually going to bring most of the problems because they're ignorant, overzealous, and arrogant, etc.
The global cabal theory says two things. First, everything is controlled by a very small number of people. Secondly, these people hide themselves. They do.
No. Maybe if you're referring to certain like Illuminati kind of theories. Listen, y'all right in the open. Hiding? Who's hiding? I could look up half of these people on the internet. When we talk about conspiracies in media, in the medical industry, in the banking industry, in the Hollywood industry, for instance. Y'all all over the internet, man. It's very easy. In fact, you're all friends, connected. Some of y'all are even part of the same lineage. Who's hiding? And I'm not just talking about tribal aspects of this thing. But I mean, even if we go to other, bloodlines and ancient groups and other organizations, I mean, who's hiding? Really, the people hiding, the principalities and powers, we know very well we'll never know. And that's not important because we see everyone out on the front line. We see the managerial class, as I call it, running the systems. Very easy to see who's behind this stuff. It's not hard to connect the dots and to prove things through funding, through worldview. All I got to do is know the worldview of an organization. I'm going to understand what their goals are. All I have to do is see, how do you see man? It tells me plenty, because these guys are atheists. They don't believe in anything. They want to merge man with machine. It's very clear where this is going. Conspiracy is not even needed. But again, they're not addressing the true ideas. I would say the valid and cogent arguments for conspiratorial ideas. They're just straw manning. They're attacking something that isn't there.
Do it in secret. Now, both things are nonsense. It's impossible for people to control, a small group of people, to control and predict everything, because the world is too complicated. You know, you look at a real world conspiracy. Conspiracy is basically just a plan. Think about the American invasion of Iraq in 2003. You had the most powerful superpower in the world, with the biggest military, with the biggest intelligence services, with the most sophisticated, you know, the FBI and the CIA and all the agents. They invade a third-rate country, a third-rate power, Iraq. With this idea, we'll take over Iraq and we'll control it, we'll make a new order in the Middle East. And everything falls apart. Their plan completely backfires. Everything they hope to achieve, they achieve the opposite. America, United States, is humiliated. They caused the rise of ISIS. They wanted to take out terrorism. They created more terrorism. Worst of all, the big winner of the war was Iran. You know, the United States goes to war with all its power and gives Iran a victory on a silver plate. The Iranians don't need to do anything. The Americans are doing everything for them. Now, this is real history. Real history is when you have not a small group of people, a lot of people with a lot of power carefully planning something, and it goes completely out of against their plan.
Sure. No one's arguing against this. He's appealing to complexity. I would agree that this is a requirement. I'll explain that in a minute here, but let's backtrack a little bit. Now, they're never right, he said earlier. False. Many times they are accurate, save some minor detail flaws, right? Sure, there are always minor detail flaws that kind of muck things up, but a lot of these conspiracies are very accurate in the long run, and they're proven right. And I could definitely say that for everything we were saying in 2020, that came true in 2022. Okay, regarding certain injections and you know, all of that. Anyhow, two important aspects. One, small group. Two, they hide. I said, well, one, doesn't matter what the size is. You see how he refers to it? Some small group. It doesn't matter if they're small or big. That doesn't matter. This is all derailment. Very manipulative tactics. Who cares what the size of the group is? Just because someone claims it's a small group, that's so crazy that it'd be a small group. Why would you believe someone that would say it's small? Okay, what does that have to do with anything? It doesn't matter what size the group is. This doesn't refute the activities and the actions that occur, whether the group is big or small. The activities and the actions occur, and it's obvious to see the connections, and we prove that with evidence. He doesn't address these ideas. Number two, doesn't matter if they are overt in their actions, or it doesn't matter if they're covert in their actions, or even overt in their actions. So he says they hide. They're claiming that they hide. Okay, let's just say they don't hide. Let's say they do their actions overtly. And he's basically what he's saying, if they're doing them in the open and not hiding, then they're not doing anything. Well, obviously they can hide them in plain sight. And we saw that with Fox News, hiding truth in plain sight, coming right out and telling you, coming right out and showing you. They don't gotta hide. Maybe they could hide their faces, but they could actually present you the lie right in front of you in different ways. Plain sight. Come on, man. These guys think we're rookies over here. Well, he's referring to rookies. That's the problem. We don't need to see them. We see their fruits and their actions. Okay. And we know their worldview. Transhumanist, as an example, we know their goals, singularity. I don't have to create some massive conspiracy theory. I could just look at your worldview as a transhumanist and your goal is singularity, and then I could connect the dots on how you're presenting it to the public on a silver platter beneath their nose, such that they don't even know what's being prepared for them. Yeah, but you ain't ready to address that. And he appeals to complexity to refute simplicity argument. Right. So his argument is that, listen, These conspiracy theorists are too simplistic. They say it's just some small little group that's taking care of everything on earth in a demonic and evil way. And all that has to be done is that they're wiped out and the world's problems will be fixed. It's this simplicity straw man. And he appeals to complexity by saying, well, you know what? Things are much more complicated than this. How could you believe such idiocy? Such small-minded arguments. How could you believe it? Everything is so much more complex. He just did a rant there about the war. It's very easy to break down. And that's not being said from the beginning, right? We're not saying that it's this simple thing that just happened, some group, and no one's really saying that, right? And he has this, actually, let's continue here.
And this we know from personal experience. Like every time we try to plan something, a birthday party, a surprise birthday party, a trip somewhere, things go wrong. This is reality. So the idea that a small group of, I don't know, the Jewish cabal, the Freemasons, whoever, they can really control and predict all the wars, this is nonsense. The second thing that is nonsense is to think they can do that and still remain secret. It sometimes happens in history that a small group of people accumulates a lot of power. If I now tell you that Xi Jinping and the head...
Shut your mouth, bro. Listen, okay. It's a plan. Again, listen to this. Conspiracy as planned. He has this way of, not only are they claiming it's so simple, small group that does everything, but they also claim that it's planned. And then his false argument attacking a straw man is that how could some massive global plan be successful without error given the complexity of things? Not the argument. Listen. It's just this millions of views, guys. Normies eat this crap up. Pure logical fallacies. It's like so amazing to me. And these are the smart guys on the earth. Okay. Conspiracy is planned. I say remove this idea. It's stifling. It's limiting. Completely move this idea of a whole, full, drawn out, concise plan. Just throw that out. Because that's easy to strawman, or should I say that's easy to refute. He's done it here. It's very easy to knock that down. Remove it. It's stifling. Okay. What if it's a process? I argue. These are my beliefs. This is how I break down these things. What if it's a process? It's not a plan. What if it's a process or a pattern of direct and indirect, right? Orchestrated and chance, right? What if it's a pattern of direct and indirect processes that operate interdependently, systemically, fueled by markets in one way, which we could describe human behavior, greed, narcissism, satanic flesh-based behavior, and psychopathic Luciferian nature, flesh of the ruling elite, managerial classes, and leadership in positions of power? What if we could just say, we don't need some simple plan for some little group. What if we could just look at systems that organize civilizations? And what if we look at the leadership, the managerial classes above those? Right? What if we look at the elite classes above them? And what if we consider their worldview? What if we consider their belief system? And what if we also can gather that they're not only psychopathic and sociopathic, but they're also kind of satanic in their belief system? Say, you know, maybe they're actually practicing rituals. And if we don't want to go there, they're just atheists and believe in nothing but self-fulfilling prophecies. Imagine that being the leadership controlling systems of the earth. You don't need a conspiracy theory. They're all going the same direction. They're all working towards that common goal, whether it be singularity or just, you know, whatever Satan wants them to do, whatever this Luciferian drive causes one to do. Do you think we have moral, stand-up, righteous people of God in these positions of leadership, in the elite classes, in the managerial class? Do you really think that? It's almost common sense to assume that really dangerous systems are going to be produced when you have people like this in power. I mean, it's not, you could even just look at it that way, though it's much, much, much deeper than that. We could just, on a very surface level, agree upon that. I mean, that's, come on. Yeah. Hence, powers and principalities, I would argue, is what's truly working through all of these organized groups, unorganized, disorganized, disconnected, connected, interdependent groups and systems. Powers and principalities are working beneath it all. from that perspective, it's very easy to understand how this plays out. But I would also add, it takes the Christian worldview to really make sense of it and to make it consistent and to make sure all of these conclusions actually follow. Right? That's the kicker there. And I know everyone's not going to be able to accept that. But I don't know. So I look at it as plurality, or plurality, systemic processes that build upon themselves and build upon each other. Not some single drawn out and hyper-organized plan. Any plan, process, or event is subject to the vicissitudes of time, space, matter, non-matter, the heart and minds of men, and the formation of groups and the collective behaviors of crowds, referring to his complexity idea. So yeah, okay, you ain't saying nothing, because this is a straw man. So with that being said, how could any man-made perfect plan succeed in any precise outcome? It can't. It just totally destroys everything he said. Let's continue.
Heads of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, they have a lot of power. They control the military, the media, the economy, the universities of China. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is obviously everybody knows it. Everybody knows it, because to gain so much power, you usually need publicity. Hitler gained a lot of power in Nazi Germany because he had a lot of publicity. If Hitler remained unknown, working behind the scenes, he would not gain power. So the way to gain power is usually through publicity. So secret cabals don't gain power. And even if you gain a lot of power...
What if secret cabals, or they don't even got to be secret, what if out in the open cabals, groups, organizations control publicity, control media, and have driving narratives? They call it nudging. Cass Sunstein ring a bell? I mean, come on, man. He thinks he's talking to morons that don't know anything. That's the problem.
Nobody has the kind of power necessary to predict and control everything that happens in the world.
No one's saying that's the case. Again, straw man after straw man. Keep it moving.
All the time shit happens that you did not predict and you did not plan and you did not control.
The sad thing is there's usually an explanation for everything you just said that involves a secret global cabal. That the reason your vacation planning always goes wrong is because you're not competent. There is a competent small group, that ultra competent small group. I hear this with intelligence agencies. The CIA are running everything. Mossad is running everything.
You see, I mean, as a historian, you get to know how many blunders these people do. They are so, and they're capable, but they are so incompetent in so many ways. Again, look at the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Like he earlier tried to appeal to complexity and the ignorance and idiocy of appealing to simplicity. Here they're appealing to this idea of being able to explain everything. Another straw man. Though, yes, many conspiracy theorists in some of these communities do try to explain everything precisely and in a way that's tight and covers every angle. Anyone that's honest, I'd argue, and that's, actually learned, would never try to make such a claim that they could explain everything. So you see how they always appeal to these absolutes, right? It's amazing, like everything. No, I have written here, no, you can't explain everything with definitude. And this is what they're referring to. They're trying to say that the conspiracy theorists, and some do, again, they're addressing a certain population and demographic, but what they're saying is, yeah, they try to explain everything with like a type of absolute definitude. That is a straw man and stupid, honestly. You can't explain everything with definitude, but that's not the goal. Anybody in their right mind that knows a little bit and is honest intellectually is going to know that they can't explain everything with definitude, and that's not the goal. Especially if we know it's not possible, why would that be the goal to begin with? But I have here some things of key significance can be understood with proper reasoning and evidence. Okay, proper reasoning and evidence. Some things can be understood, not everything, right? And this is through inductive reasoning. It's almost like if it's not deductive, it can't be accepted. And it's like, well, how are you doing science, bro? I mean, come on. It's just crazy to me. This is inductive reasoning, and evidences and sound conclusions are all we really can work with. But with enough reasonable evidence and sound conclusions, you can start to paint a picture, at least present a case that something is very likely to be true. And that is the proper way to address conspiratorial ideas. Something he is not referring to, and I'd say avoiding, because that's dangerous ground, because then it reveals the dishonesty of these types. But it also reveals the key potential truth of properly reasoned conspiratorial thinking with the right evidences and arguments. We aim to be most consistent, okay? Not to definitively claim we have the truth on everything. No, that's impossible. We aim to be most consistent. Explanation, the most consistent explanation is all that can be acceptable. Let's continue.
Before the war, people thought, oh, Putin was such a genius, and the Russian army was one of the strongest armies in the world. This is what Putin thought. And it completely backfired.
Well, a cabal explanation there would be there's a NATO-driven United States military-industrial complex that wants to create chaos and
so
incompetence.
They put a gun to Putin's head and told him, Vladimir, if you don't invade, we shoot you. How did they cause Putin to invade Ukraine?
It's the thing about conspiracy theories is there's usually a way to explain everything.
It's like religion. You can always find explanation for everything. And, in the end, it's intellectual integrity. If you insist on whenever people confront you with
the irony, the pure irony. Oh, this guy.
Evidence, with finding some very, very complicated explanation for that too, you can explain everything. We know that. It's a question of intellectual integrity. And I will also say another thing. The conspiracy theories, they do get one thing right, certainly in today's world. I think they represent an authentic and justified fear of a lot of people that they are losing control of their lives. They don't understand what is happening. And this, I think, is
this gaslighting. It's like, wow, you guys are afraid and scared. That's why you think this way. There's actually books written on this theory about why, and this is probably where he's pulling this from, why people have conspiratorial ideas. And the argument is that, well, they're just lost and they're blaming everything on the environment and the world. It's a fear of the world. The world is big and scary. It's in other words, it's the external locus of control, basically.
It's not just a legitimate fear. This is an important fear. They are right. We are losing control of our lives.
Here he feigns empathy and honesty and rationality, right? He's agreeable, sure.
We are facing really big dangers, but not from a small cabal of fellow humans. The problem with many of these conspiracy theories that, yes, we have a problem with new AI technology. But if you now direct the fire against certain people, so instead of all humans cooperating against our real common threats, whether it's the rise of AI, whether it's global warming, you're only causing us to fight each other. And I think that the key question that people who spread these ideas, I mean, many of them, they honestly believe, it's not malicious, that they honestly believe in these theories, is do you want to spend your life spreading hate?
There it is. There it is. Equating conspiratorial thinking to hatred. Precisely how this new conservative right internet personality culture is being used. Whether it's the Zerkas or the Fuentes or the Pearly things. All of them are being used. Mixing truth, fiction, conspiracy with racism and anti-Semitic. Mixing all of this together to be pushed away, ousted, criminalized as a threat to society. Check it out.
Towards people, or do you want to work on more constructive projects? I think one of the big differences between those who believe in conspiracy theories and people who warn about the dangers of AI, the dangers of climate change, we don't see certain humans as evil and hateful. The problem isn't humans. The problem is something outside humanity.
Again, total, it's like, it's as a way to derail what the real issues are. The issues are that of sin, that of human nature, or should I say human behavior. And he wants to say, no, it's outside. Again, speaking to the external threat of Reagan, speaking to this push for aliens, speaking to this push for, you know, the old school way, international threats, weapons of mass destruction, warfare. Now it's aliens and AI. Again, it's this constant push towards its external. It's the external problem. That's what you need to be concerned about. And he just contradicted himself as earlier. He says, see, what's wrong with these conspiracy theorists is they just see everything as an external threat. But what he's saying is the real problem is the external. They don't need to rethink themselves and come to the one, come to the individual and, you know, reassess what they believe. No. They just blame it. They just, you know, blame it on the external. And right around, he comes and says, well, you know, it's not that humans are bad. It's not the people. It's the external. Yeah. Bringing us all together to fight against the external threat, right? Synthesis, right? Singularity, right? We ain't stupid, bro.
Yes, humans are contributing to the problem, but ultimately the enemy is external to humanity. Whereas conspiracy theories usually claim that a certain part of humanity is the source of all evil, which leads them to eventually think in terms of exterminating this part of humanity, which
see that? Setting people up to be called murderers. Crazy. You're going to kill grandma. That sounds familiar.
Leads sometimes to historical disasters like Nazism.
So it can lead to hate, but can also lead to like cynicism and apathy that basically says it's not in my power to make the world better. So you don't actually take action.
I think it is within the power of every individual to make the world a little bit better. You know, you can't do everything. Don't try to do everything. Find one thing in your areas of activity, a place where you have some agency, and try to do that and hope that other people do their bit. And if everybody do their bit, we'll manage. And
we'll manage. Dude, while you build up AI machines and connect human bodies to computers and put little children in, you know, AR suits and goggles, we'll manage. Just don't worry. Just try to.
If we don't, we don't. But at least we try.
You have been part of conspiracy theories. I find myself recently becoming part of conspiracy theories. Is there a
Here comes the victimhood ploy. Victimhood ploy incoming.
Advice you can give of how to be a human being in this world that values truth and reason while...
Before we hear a bunch of nonsense, let me refer to what he said about what we can do. The atheist Rainbow Brigade Satanist wants to tell us how to be good people and contribute to humanity. Fascinating. The problem is external, he says. It's not humanity, you know. It's not an either or. It's a both and. It's external threats, spiritual, technological, systemic, but it's also based in human behavior, worldview, belief system. Right? It's both. Again, with these either fallacy after fallacy, either or fallacy. It's not humanity, it's the external. No, it's both. The hell is wrong with you? It's micro, macro. We make the world, I say we make the world a better place, not by whatever the heck he just said. We make the world a better place by changing our hearts. And for those that don't know what that means, that's moral absolutism as a start. laws of God, the Most High God. You can start with the 10 Commandments if, you're that simple. Virtue as the highest order of value. And with that, condemn the super modern materialism, condemn transhumanism, condemn technocracy and full digitization of the earth and the people living in it as well as their environments. Deny and fight against technological determinism that says, oh, well, AI is just going to keep growing and there's nothing we can do, because that's what he does. This is his whole MO. It's a fatalistic, a demoralizing message that says, you know what, there's no stop. It's just the old technological determinism view that says, you know what, there's nothing we can do. We can't stop this AI. It's going to destroy humanity. But hey, we'll do the best we can. We'll manage. And if not, well, at least we tried, says the man that wants to inform you on how to help humanity. Wild. Wild. And I put here, if one of the solutions is to make the world a better, if one of the solutions to making the world a better place, not fixing it, not saving it, but making it a little better during this process of deconstruction and singularity, one thing we definitely could do is change our hearts, right? But I have in here, most people want to change everything but themselves. Hence, it's a human problem. It's a flesh problem. It's a problem of man. It's a problem of sin, narcissism, normative narcissism. Most people want to change everything but themselves. It is truly the only thing one has ultimate control over. Now let's hear the victimhood ploy.
Watching yourself become part of conspiracy theories. At least from my perspective, it seems very difficult to prove to the world that you're not part of a conspiracy theory. I, as you said, have interviewed Benjamin Netanyahu recently. I don't know if you're aware, but doing such things will also, pick up a new menu of items that your new set of conspiracy theories you're now a part of. And I find it very frustrating because it makes it very difficult to respond because I sense that people have the right intentions. Like we said, they have a nervousness of a fear of power and the abuses of power. And
another misdirection. Another straw man. Ad hom. All combined. All a bunch of crap. Bunch of fallacies. Yeah, that's the issue. People are afraid. They're afraid of power. Lex Fridman says, we're afraid of power. See, that's the problem. If you just weren't afraid. No. The problem is, well, it isn't the fear of power. I've written in my notes here. It is the recognition of concentrated power. The recognition of patterned, historical, environmental, technological, concentrated power, powers, principalities, and the systems they perpetrate at the expense of common man and the future of human life. Life in living, that which is alive, not this post-human integration of man and machine and non-biological entities, right? But life, human life, natural life, okay? It's not some fear of power, some dudes we're afraid of. No. It is the recognition of concentrated power and powers and the systems they perpetuate. It is the recognition of concentrated power, powers, and the systems they perpetuate at the expense of the common man and the future of human life, as well as the sustainability of traditional cultures. See, when you read the works of these types, they profess a future that is completely absent of these things, as if we're just going to give in and give up and stop practicing the ways that we've always lived and the ways that we, in a sense, have to live based on our belief systems and values and faith. Right. We're not afraid. Not at all. We're standing on what we believe. And y'all don't like it. Simple. Standing on our beliefs, fighting for the sustainability of traditional cultures, aiming to withstand techno-determinism and those whom propagate it. These men here that we see speaking as an example.